Howdy, folks. Excuse me, this is the Views Expressed right here. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce, for the 20th of August, 2013. How y'all doing? Doing good? Are you doing good there? I hope so, because, hey, it's Tuesday. Alright? Not making fun of you. I'm not making fun of my friends in New York, okay? I got family in New York. It's okay, though. They get the joke, okay? Anyway. How you doing today for this 20th of August, 2013? Go to Free America Radio on Facebook. Check things out there. Holy crap, do I have a lot. I have a lot to share with you. If you heard my podcast earlier, I did a podcast earlier. If you heard that, you will know that I was just a little upset. Just a little, just a tad, just a wee bit. Okay. I understand how people are. I understand they may not always agree with me, and that's fine. I do get upset. I do get angry. I do lash out verbally sometimes at people. But all I ask is that if you're going to contradict me, please have the information in front of you. Oh, wait, you don't. That's why I'm giving it to you. Free America Radio on Facebook. Innocent People's DNA profile won't be deleted after all, Minister admits. That's at the telegraph.co.uk. Irony. Experiencing tyranny while protesting it. Impeach Obama. Protesters roughed up and arrested at St. Charles, Missouri. Also from Paul Joseph Watson, posted at Citizens Action Network. Chinese Communist Party mouthpiece demands Obama disarm Americans again. Beijing state media calls for quote-unquote urgent gun control in the U.S. Kind of makes you wonder what the mad rush is to disarm us. Did the UN's precious NWO get behind schedule? And from local here and behind enemy lines in FEMA Region 9 in the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada. From link.brightcove.com, restaurants raising prices in lieu of leaving tips. Also from MrConservative.com, illegal aliens students arrested during raucous protests demanding lower college tuition. How much you want to make a bet? You can ask any number of those illegal alien protesters, or those protesters who are illegal aliens, if they want free education. How many do you believe are going to say yes? Okay? Plus they get all kinds of perks. Seriously. So, this is the Views Expressed live for Tuesday, the 20th of August, 2013. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce. FreeAmericaRadio.weebly.com is the website, or Spreaker.com/user/FreeLibertyRadio. Email me at freeamericaradio@usa.com. That's freeamericaradio@usa.com.
Late Night in the Midlands is an alternative media that covers the truth, theory, and fact that the lamestream media won't talk about. We cover everything from the known and the unknown, the normal and the paranormal, the government lies and the government ties, and even their thrive. We tell what's coming, what's going, whether it be politics or archaeologists. We have an amazing fan base, and our shows are all archived to be heard millions of times more. So tell your friends, your family, and anybody you care about LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Become a member and be informed.
Come listen to Journey into Light with your host, Michael Long. This show is about looking into the afterlife. Where do our souls go from here? What are the true messages from above? Everybody is family, so make a journey into light with Michael Long your home. With the best guests on the show, they share the love with all who call in and those who are in the chat room. That's Journey into Light with Michael Long, Sunday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, on blogtalkradio.com/Journey into the Light. Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is looking for you. Are you a voice actor looking to hone your abilities? Are you a writer looking for actors? Then Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is for you. If you are a voice actor or a writer of sci-fi themed radio plays, send your information to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. For more information, go to eastlandradiofilms.wix.com/EastlandFilms for more information. If you are a voice actor, send your audition clips to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. Howdy, folks. This is the Views Express Live. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce, right here for the 20th of August, 2013. We are live. Yes, we are live. I put up a podcast earlier if you want to go check it out. You'll hear a telephone ringing in the background. Just thought I'd let you know. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for supporting this show. And you can do a whole lot more by passing this show along to other people, by donating on the website at freeamericaradio.weebly.com. You can buy merchandise there as well to promote your patriotism and all of that. So I'm wanting to go to the next level, but need your help to do so. Also, you heard a promo there for Eastland Entertainment. That is another business. It's quote unquote. It's not really a business. I'm not making any money at it or anything. I'm not making money doing this. I just do it for free. But I got to get paid somehow. Okay. And I'm like every other working stiff that does everything for little pay or no pay or volunteer or whatever. So I'm in that category. I make zip zero zilch from anything to do with this show or the Wayne S. Pierce show. So I'm giving you the backstory here. I get nothing from this, okay? I get the satisfaction of knowing that I'm getting the information out there to you people so that you can hopefully go and research this stuff yourself. But you heard a promo for Eastland Entertainment. I am writing some scripts, some short episodes to a serial that I'm putting together for Eastland Radio Repertory Theater, which is here on Spreaker as well. And I'm looking for actors, and I'm looking for voice actors and other folks as well. But here locally in Reno, Nevada, I'm looking to put a theater together. Yes, start my own business because I'm tired of working for everybody else for next to nothing. So, so that's what I want to do. So here locally in Reno, Nevada, I'm looking for people. So if you have any experience in theater and want to go from the bottom up and build a theater to the, with no, I mean, there's competition here. There's Baruca Theater here in Reno, Nevada. There's also Reno Little Theater as well, and some other little ones, but I'm not competing against them because I'm very much unique in my idea. And if you want to know more and want to be a part of that, please email me at Eastland, let me put it this way. Email me at eastlandradiotheater@usa.com. eastlandradiotheater@usa.com. Would very much appreciate it. I got so many irons in the fire. Not one of them individually is like getting any hotter than any of the other ones. So I got a lot of hats I'm wearing. I do a lot of things. And there's one thing that I want to say to my listeners. I appreciate you. Yes, you listen to my show every day. You listen to the podcast every day. You pass this show along, I hope, to other people. Let them know about it. You may not agree with everything I say, and that's okay. That's fine. That's okay. I don't mind. I may not agree with everything everybody else says either. But if we're on the same page about liberty and freedom and peace and security in this country, I think we have something to talk about. I'm just saying. Going over to the Spreaker side of things, I want to say hello to the man, Mr. Glenn from Sacramento. Sacramento, California. Yeah, California, land of the fruits and nuts, and I'm not a fruit. I'm kidding. Land of the fruits and nuts. Yeah. California, I used to say, was in the toilet waiting for somebody to push the handle. Well, apparently someone has. So, bye-bye Golden State, because you're history. I know people are there working their butts off trying to make sure that it doesn't completely collapse and they don't lose their jobs. I understand that, okay? I understand it's a beautiful place. I grew up in Stockton, California. Went to Disneyland, went to the Bay Area, loved the Bay Area. Love San Francisco, love, those areas out there. Sacramento's a cool town. Sunrise Mall, you got, a bunch of other places out there. I mean, it's a fantastic place to go if you're a sightseer. Okay. But with all the regulations in California and with everything that they try to do to suppress your constitutionally protected rights, yeah, it's not a state I want to live in anymore. Seriously. Hey, from the Telegraph, go to Free America Radio on Facebook if you can. If not, that's okay. Wait till you get home. Go to Free America Radio on Facebook. Click on the first article there. Innocent people's DNA profile. Innocent people's DNA profiles won't be deleted after all, minister admits. That's from the telegraph.co.uk. Now, folks, I've admitted it before that sometimes sometimes this is the first time I'm reading this article. Sometimes I read them and then I put them up, and that's so people will find this interesting, I hope. But sometimes I see the headline and I put the article up on the Free America Radio Facebook page, and I don't read them. And this article, I haven't read yet. This is the first time I'm reading it. From Christopher Hope and Robert Winnett over there at the telegraph.co.uk. The DNA of more than 100, or I should say the DNA of more than 1 million innocent people will not be wiped from police records, the Daily Telegraph can disclose. Inside the police, Instead, I had to clean my glasses off, folks. Instead, the police will retain DNA profiles in anonymized form, leaving open the possibility of connecting them up with people's names, ministers have admitted. The admission appears to break a coalition commitment to delete all innocent profiles, apart from those accused of violent or sex crimes, from police database. Civil liberties groups accuse the government of a, quote, disgraceful U-turn, unquote, and a, quote, breach of promise, unquote, to destroy innocent people's DNA. It is the latest in the list of about turns by the government on key pledges, such as the selling off tracts of forest, axing free school milk for some children, and capping welfare handouts for all claimants at £26,000 a year. Currently in England and Wales, the DNA profiles of everyone arrested for a recordable offense are retained by the police regardless of whether they are charged or convicted. By the way, let me go back up here. It says here, admission appears to break a coalition commitment to delete all innocent profiles apart from the accused of violent or sex crimes from police databases. I want to put this out here because I understand where it's coming from. I understand how people look at these things because, I've talked to many different people over my time. And I can tell you that people have varying perspectives of this one issue. Is it against your Fourth Amendment right to take DNA? Is it all that? Well, the courts here in the United States have said that it is not. In some cases, the judges would say it is not against your Fourth Amendment right, and in other cases, judges would say it is against your Fourth Amendment right. So, which is it? Well, if you stand on the rule of law of the Constitution, which these judges should be doing, it is against your Fourth Amendment right to take DNA. My perspective is this. Going back and looking at sex crimes or number of violent crimes that there are, if that person is suspected of committing X crime, whatever it is, I don't believe you have, or the law enforcement has, a right to take DNA from that person. If that person has been convicted by a jury of his peers in a court of law, then I would say probable cause, you can go ahead and take the DNA. But this is about innocent people in Britain. And it's also about innocent people here in the U.S. where DNA is not being destroyed. DNA of innocent people are not being destroyed. And what comes of it? What is the point? The point is this. They want something to tie you to. So they take the DNA, they go to a location that, and if you're a protester, if you're this, if you're out and you're out in the streets and you're, doing whatever, they're going to take your DNA, put it on something, and they're going to say, you were there, here's your DNA, and you got nothing to say about it, and there's no witnesses, and they're going to intimidate everybody around you to stop them from testifying for you on your behalf. Yeah, so you see where the nefarious elements of this are going, do you not? So this whole thing is just, it's amazing. It's amazing. And Glenn from Sacramento asked a question. Weren't they talking about taking DNA at DUI checkpoints or traffic stops? Yes, they were. And like I said, in some cases, the judges would say, it's not against their Fourth Amendment right. And in some other cases, they said it was. Well, what is it? No, the rule of law of the Constitution is your Fourth Amendment right cannot be violated by law enforcement. Now, they say probable cause. Excuse me? That's really, really vague. Probable cause? You know what that is in layman's terms? I think you might have perhaps done this. That's probable cause. You see how vague that is? Now, of course, some court cases have specified and clarified what that probable cause is, and they've defined it, and they've gone from there. But yes, I mean, at checkpoints now, they are allowed to take your DNA. And people are fighting it. People are fighting it, by invoking the Fourth Amendment. And some judges are saying, yeah, you're right. And they're throwing the case out. Some judges are going, yeah, but you had this in your past, and you had, so they're, yeah. So, but from what I understand, yes, they are taking DNA, and it is out there, and people need to wake up to this stuff. Let's put it this way. What harm, let me go in a different direction on this. What harm would it be if you stood out about 3 or 4 blocks away around the corner from a DUI checkpoint telling people don't go down that road, holding up a sign, DUI checkpoint ahead, detour and point elsewhere? What harm is it to do that? People have been arrested for doing that. Seriously. You cannot stop the law enforcement from doing their job. Really? I'm trying to save people from getting from... I'm trying to stop innocent people from getting harassed. That's what I'm trying to stop. Now, if you're drunk, well, yeah, you go to jail. Also, I believe that anybody stopped for DUI the first time should get their license pulled. That's just me. That's just me. I believe if you're, if you're in a situation where a cop says, well, I got to take your DNA and blah, 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 and the court said this, and you need to be on top of the law. You need to understand what that means when you get pulled over. Oh, there's been posts and memes and documents that I've seen on Facebook that people have put up saying this is how you can get away from being stopped. This is, if you get stopped, also, this is what you say to the police. And I've seen those. And it's like, am I being detained? Am I free to go? And if the cop keeps asking you questions, you just go, am I being detained? Am I free to go? And you just keep saying that, or, whatever is on the list. Don't give them your ID. There is no law stating that they have to know who you are. Okay? And there's a lot of things involved with that. But to get pulled over at a checkpoint and have your DNA taken, to me, they don't have probable cause to do so. Okay? If you're sober and you're, clean and everything, and you're just driving and you get pulled over in one of these checkpoints, and they suspect that you're drunk when you haven't drank in years, what do you think they're going to do? They want total and absolute control over your life and every aspect of it as well. Okay? I'm pretty sure right now in Sacramento, I don't know specifically where, but I'm pretty sure in Sacramento there's checkpoints going up right now. I think Sacramento proper in the city itself is, I think it's 2.5 million people. And when you combine West Sacramento, I think that's well over, what is it, about 3.5? That's a lot of people in Sacramento. I like the town. It's nice, man. It really is. You got some idiot people in the nation's capital, but, in the, that too, in the state capital there, and got some doofuses running around state legislature thinking they know what they're doing. So anyway, it goes to show you that there is an absolute power structure involved here. And the power structure says, you're the minions, you're our slaves, and here's what we're going to do. Didn't Hitler do that with the National Socialist Party? Didn't he have a group of people that would go around making sure that everybody was falling into line with the chancellor's rules of law. Yeah, that was the Gestapo. Didn't he have military out on the streets making sure that people had a reason to be on the streets? Papers, please. Did he not write up a quote-unquote crime bill that he signed into law that said that every person has to register their firearms for the war effort? And what was the first thing he went after when he rounded up the Jews? Him and Hermann Goering and all those folks. Well, it seems like history is repeating itself right here in the great old USA. And I think it's time that you and I do a little bit of protesting ourselves. I can make suggestions, but I'll leave that in your hands. If you want to email me, freeamericaradio@usa.com. freeamericaradio@usa.com. Oh, by the way, did you know that there is a nationalist socialist party in America? Did you know that? Did you know that there was a nationalist socialist white people's party in America? In the 70s, when I was living in Stockton, California, my brother would call a number that was at the University of Pacific. And it was for the National Socialist White People's Party. And it would give like a 1 minute, minute and a half little comment or little diatribe, whatever it was. Little speech. Oh, yeah. Did you know there was a Communist Party of the United States of America? Did you know that? Yeah. Did you know that in San Diego, foreign military landed on the beaches in amphibian vehicles? Did you know that on the East Coast there's people, foreign military going into Pennsylvania and Ohio and all that area? Did you know that for get this, drills? Did you know this? We have been and we are occupied. This is no longer the United States of America as far as what some people would think. This is the North American Union. Some people might think, well, I don't know. It might be, I'm not sure. I don't want to talk about that stuff. What's on TV? You might be driving down the road going home from work, and you might see something that seems to you to be out of the norm. Yeah, that's when you need to start questioning your leaders in your hometown and in your state's capital. I find it incredibly odd that people don't question their leaders even more. But then again, there are people out there that really don't care, and all they care about is William and Kate's baby George. With her unique, fast-paced, witty sarcasm, Angel Clark brings you the news of the day with a creative twist. Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern on radiofreedom.us. You can also listen to her live on the Liberty Radio Network at lrn.fm. Get your morning started with the Morning Brew on 92.6 The Blitz. Music from the 60s, 70s, and more. The Blitz 92.6. Go to radiorocktheblitz.blogspot.com. Listen to the Diana and Wayne's Grab Bag Potpourri Talk Show, Friday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, right here on Spreaker.com. See that car in your rearview mirror? The driver wants to kill you. Don't take it personally. You just happen to be in the way. Now, with a gun in one hand and a steering wheel in the other, this distant runner-up in the human race feels empowered for the very first time. At least our boys finally found a purpose in life. Red Asphalt by Scott Cherney. Available at Amazon.com. Hey folks, welcome back. This is second segment of the Views Express live right here at freeamericaradio.weebly.com or Spreaker.com. Go over to Spreaker.com, join me in the chat room over there. Say hi, tell me what's on your mind. I got a challenge for people. And I haven't had people meet this challenge yet. But I got a challenge for people. You live in your city, you know what goes on. You pretty much have your finger on the heart of on the pulse of the city. You've been there a while, you know what's happening. How about taking video or doing a report or something, even pictures if you like, of things that are out of the norm in your city that you don't think are quite right, and even local news articles that are talking about certain things that seem out of the norm, you know. If you want to send that to me, you go ahead and do that. freeamericaradio@usa.com. freeamericaradio@usa.com. And I'll post it on the website at freeamericaradio.weebly.com. Give you all the credit for it. And I'll make that sucker go viral on Facebook at Free America Radio. I mean, why not? Hey, if you're up for it, it's a good challenge for you. Go to Free America Radio on Facebook, by the way. From Paul Joseph Watson, posted at Citizens Action Network. Chinese Communist Party mouthpiece demands Obama disarm Americans again. Did you get that? Because about 2 to 3 months ago, or maybe even longer, the spokesman for the cabinet and all the politicians there in China were saying, well, we can't do what we want to do because America needs to be disarmed. This is why President Obama, by the end of August, apparently, I got to find more info on this. If you have more info on this, send it to freeamericaradio@usa.com. But by the end of the month, Obama's going to sign the United Nations Small Arms Trade Treaty, which will pretty much gut the Second Amendment. Once he does that, China can come in and take over. China can come in and just take back whatever it is they they want. We're going to allow that to happen? I don't think so. Beijing state media calls for quote-unquote urgent gun control in the U.S., in other words, gun confiscation. Paul Joseph Watson over at Prison Planet and Infowars.com writes, Global Times, a newspaper described as the, quote, angry Chinese government mouthpiece, unquote, recently published an editorial in which it called for urgent gun control in the United States, the second Chinese Communist Party publication to do so within the last month. The newspaper's January 17th front page editorial entitled Political Inertia Hinders Gun Control Action states that there is, quote, clearly an urgent need for gun control in the U.S., unquote, lamenting that it will, quote, be impossible for the country to ban guns, unquote. That's the ultimate, objective in the United States with this current administration, folks. Ban the Second Amendment. Continuing, striking an authoritarian tone, the editorial notes, quote, the difficulties in promoting gun control show that the U.S. society lacks authorities willing and able to push forward reform, unquote. In other words, go around to your house and just take everything you have and curtail and suppress your freedom of not only speech, but your Second Amendment rights. Continuing, presumably in the United States, where we're a one-party dictatorship like China. Now, let me read that again. This is I was reading ahead, so I know what it says here. Presumably, if the United States were a one-party dictatorship like China, such quote-unquote reforms would be far easier to implement. Connect the dots, folks. Follow the money. What's 1 plus 1? No. Common Core says 3 times 4 is 11, and just because you show how you got there means you pass. The editorial goes on to claim how different China is from the U.S. That's in quotes, and how the failure of the gun control legislation, quote, has become an institutional defect, unquote, of the United States. A defect, excuse me. The piece even uses the gun control debate in the United States as an example of why the power of China's ruling communist dictatorship should not be weakened, arguing that, quote, China's social transition cannot be developed into a process of decreasing of authorities, unquote. The bigger the iron fist, the harder it falls, the more in line people will be. Continuing, according to an investigation by Foreign Policy magazine, Global Times is a quote-unquote hyper-nationalistic publication, quote, located within the sprawling Hwaban campus of the People's Daily, the stodgy old organ of the Chinese Communist Party, unquote. The People's Daily owns the paper, which FP's Christina Larson describes as a quote, angry Chinese government mouthpiece, unquote, that specializes in, quote, attacking American values, unquote. The Global Times is China's third largest newspaper with a daily print readership of 2.4 million and a web audience of 10 million. The Communist Party of China has not been shy in its advocacy of gun control in the United States. As we reported last month, as Paul Joseph Watson and them, as they reported last month, the Chinese press agency Xinhua or something, which, quote, is subordinate to the State Council and reports to the Communist Party of China's propaganda and public information departments, unquote, published a report on December 15th which urged Barack Obama to wage, quote, a protracted war, unquote, on the Second Amendment. The editorial noted that the Sandy Hook massacre provided Obama with an opportunity to push his agenda, and there should be, quote, no delay for U.S. gun control, unquote. The bleak irony of Chinese government mouthpieces pushing gun control in the U.S. is, of course, the fact that the Communist Party was founded by Mao Zedong, whose policies killed 40 to 70 million Chinese citizens during the Cultural Revolution. Mao himself once remarked that, quote, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun, unquote. An understanding he ruthlessly put into action by disarming people who had no means to defend themselves against genocide, against his genocide. Quote, the Communist Party must command all of the guns. That way no guns can ever be used to command the party, unquote, Mao stated before applying gun control laws he had inherited, which, quote, made it illegal to import or possess rifles, cannons, or explosives without a permit, unquote. The laws were updated in 1957 when the National People's Congress outlawed the manufacture, repair, purchase, or possession of any firearm or ammunition, quote, in contravention of safety provisions, unquote. In other words, their own safety, because they knew the people were going to go out and do a little house cleaning. China is routinely rocked by riots staged by residents furious at the arbitrary theft of their land by the state, which under the communist system claims that the government owns all land and that private property rights are non-existent. However, the state-owned media ensures the news of the protest does not reach a national audience. In other words, they cut you off. Anything in China has to come through word of mouth or you flying there, finding out what's going on, coming back, and telling people about it. They have a very, very restrictive internet. They have a very, very restrictive media. And that's what Al Jazeera is going to do in America. Did you hear about that? Yeah, today, at midnight today, from last night, midnight, Al Jazeera went to 48 million homes. Yeah. Continuing. Those subjected to brutal forced relocation programs, some of which end in state-sanctioned murder, have no means to defend themselves against heavily armed police and PLA troops. The fact that Americans would be angered at being lectured by propagandists working on behalf of the one-party dictatorship about their inherent rights is understandable. That is, unless you're someone like Peter Beinart of the Daily Beast, who in response to CNN host Piers Morgan's crusade against the Second Amendment wrote that Americans are going to have to, quote-unquote, accept being lectured by the likes of Morgan and, quote, Chinese officials, unquote, as part of the, quote, globalization number 2, unquote, under which Americans must submit to, quote, increased interpenetration by foreign immigrants, products, money, and mores, unquote. In other words, your far-left liberal loons in Washington, D.C. and in your states want the borders completely wide open to let everybody in so that they can take your jobs or lower your pay or make you a slave. Okay? But what these jackasses in other countries don't realize is that when they get over here from a country they left because of the tyranny, they're walking right back into it. These far-left liberal loon, Democrat, fascist, no-good libtards up in Washington, D.C. and overall the rest of the United States have one problem, and that problem is they're dumber than dirt clods. They have no idea what freedom is because they've been so wrapped up in this controlled situation, this Borg-like system that they've adapted to, that they have no idea what freedom is. Ask a liberal, a far-left liberal democratic fascist loon, if they've read the Constitution of the United States of America. Chances are they don't even know what it is. Free America Radio on Facebook. Now, here's something else. Here is something else. 10thAmendmentCenter.com. Absolute Federal Supremacy. A Crackpot Post-Antebellum Theory. By Mike Meharry over there at 10thAmendmentCenter.com. Thank you, Mike. Author's note. The following is a response to an op-ed by U.S. News opinion editor Robert Schlesinger. To his credit, he published a shortened version as a letter to the editor. The published version had to be cut quite a bit to meet their space requirements. Following is the original uncut response. If James Madison and Thomas Jefferson strolled down the streets of Washington, D.C. today listening in on current political discourse, they would likely declare conventional wisdom holding the federal government supreme in all it does, a crackpot post-antebellum legal theory, unquote. Even Alexander Hamilton would undoubtedly express shock. After all, he was one of the first defenders of the Constitution to point out the limits of supremacy in Federalist 33. Quote, "But it will not follow from this doctrine that acts of the large society which are not pursuant to its constitutional powers, but which are invasions of the residuary authorities of the smaller societies, will become the supreme law of the land. These will be merely acts of usurpation, and will deserve to be treated as such," unquote. 13 independent sovereign political societies came together to form the United States, and they delegated specific powers to a general government. All other powers remained with the states and the people. There was no debate on that matter. Both supporters and opponents of the Constitution agreed the federal government was to remain limited. The ratification debate revolved around one question: would the Constitution actually create the limited government intended? Known as the father of the Constitution, Madison worked tirelessly for ratification. When anti-federalists insist the federal government would not remain constrained, Madison argued that the states would serve as the check on its powers. Quote, "Should an unwarrantable measure of the federal government be unpopular in a particular state, the means of opposition to it are powerful and at hand. The disquietude of the people, their repugnance and perhaps refusal to cooperate with officers of the Union, the frowns of the executive magistracy of the state, the embarrassment created by legislative devices which would often be added on such occasions, would oppose in any state very serious impediments, and were sentiments of several adjoining states happen to be in the Union, would present obstructions which the federal government would hardly be willing to encounter," unquote. In other words, lock and load if the government becomes too much. If Washington, D.C. starts infringing upon your rights and impinging their little feeble laws upon each state, then each state has the opportunity and responsibility to rebel. Here we find nullification roots before the Constitution was even ratified. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights was ratified December 15, 1791. The principles serve as Madison's means of opposition, powerful and at hand. Quite simply, state nullification is any action rendering an unconstitutional federal act null, void, and simply unenforceable within a state. Over the last several years, Americans across the political spectrum have embraced the principles, if not in name, at least in practice. States seeking to nullify violations of the Second Amendment recently spun the idea into the news cycle, but California began its nullification efforts back in 1996 with the passage of Proposition 215. Today, 19 states have legal medical marijuana programs, despite Supreme Court-approved federal prohibition. Last year, Virginia outlawed state cooperation with indefinite detention under the NDAA. The National ID program envisioned under the Real ID Act of 2005 still does not exist. Under the leadership of the ACLU, states simply refuse to implement it. Still, most American commentators and pundits continue to vilify nullification, branding it a wacky, discredited legal theory concocted by John Calhoun to support slavery. That's not true. In fact, here it is, Madison and Jefferson first formalized the principles in 1798, responding to the Alien and Sedition Acts. And while nullification did play a role in the Civil War, it was not the one most Americans think In fact, northern states claimed sovereignty to block the Fugitive Slave Act in 1850. They passed liberty laws, effectively nullifying this disgusting federal quote-unquote law, denying due process to any black person accused of escaping slavery. They were so successful that South Carolina accused northern states of enacting, quote, laws which either nullify the acts of Congress or render useless any attempt to execute them, unquote, in its declaration of causes for secession. While some argue that the Civil War, quote, unquote, settled nullification argument, it did no such thing, no more than George Bush's war settled anything legally or morally in Iraq. Those who brush nullification aside as wacky or crackpot wash away the very foundation of American political thought. As Jefferson wrote, the states, quote, are not united on the principle of unlimited submission to their general government, unquote, and the government created, quote, was not made the exclusive or final judge of the extent of the powers delegated to itself, unquote. Federal supremacists would have us believe the people of the states created a federal government with limited enumerated powers, insisted on further, quote, declaratory and restrictive clauses, unquote, the Bill of Rights, and then left it to that government to decide the extent of its own power. In other words, we must accept that the founders believed a government could exist as a self-limiting institution. Absurd. Nullification naturally flows from the system of the Constitution created. Without some way to hold federal power in check, we end up not with a limited government possessing enumerated powers, but an indefinite one subject to political or particular exceptions. There you go, folks. Click on the link, 10thamendmentcenter.com/crackpots. The only thing that I can say about nullification and putting this government in check, and when I say government, I'm talking about the mafia organization we call the Obama regime. The only way that we're ever going to put them in check and stop them from doing the things that they're doing to us is stand on the Constitution. We have to defend that document and our lives that document protects. We have to stand up and say enough is enough. We have to stand up on the overpasses, in the streets with signs and flags and whatever, anything else that we can manage to get our hands on, and tell our government, whether it's our mayor in our cities or the governor in our state capitals, we have to tell them now and demand action that they nullify every executive order coming out of the White House, period. And if our governors and legislators don't do that, legislators don't do that, there's this little thing coming up this year called the midterm elections. Let's make sure they understand who we the people are. It's that simple.
Listen to Angel Clark Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Radio Freedom News Network. RadioFreedom.us.
Time to take our republic back, folks. Brian Bonner, the Uncooperative Radio Show host, will tell you how. Join us for the ride of your life. Using humor and the facts, we'll expose the news that the lamestream media refuses to report. The Constitution is the solution, and we can prove it. Listen in and find out what it means to be an uncooperative citizen of these United States. You can find our show at uncooperativerradio.com, and we are rebroadcast on redstatetalkradio.com.
What's on your mind? Chances are it's on their mind too. Check out Diana and Wayne's Grab Bag Potpourri Talk Show. Friday evenings at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Only on Spreaker.com.
For the best Southern, classic, and new rock, Along with kicking country and R&B, check out Wildcat Radio for the Friday night party. The fun begins at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, with local, state, and national news from the Alabama News Network at the top and bottom of every hour. It's Wildcat Radio's Friday Night Party, a division of the Vulcan Internet Broadcast Company.
No elitist drivel, no media spin. Logic over emotion, fact over fiction. The home of independent conservative thought. The Conservative Voice with your host, Jeff Wagner, only on the Conservative Radio Network.
Hey folks, welcome back. This is The Views Expressed. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce. If you just joined me, thank you. Appreciate that very much. Go to freeamericaradio.weebly.com. Check out the site. I'm going to put more articles up there and stuff that I read. And if you want to read them, you can go to Free America Radio on Facebook and check them out there as well. I talk about those, give my opinions, and we go from there. So you can email me with your own articles or links to blogs that you do or your own website. You can email me at freeamericaradio@usa.com. That's freeamericaradio@usa.com. Join me here Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Spreaker.com. Howdy, folks. Howdy. Yes. It's coming up to the top of the hour. I just want to pop in here and say thank you for joining me in the Spreaker chat. Thank you, Glenn. Always appreciate the fact that you show up. You always give me some things I didn't know. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Also, you can check out my podcast that I did earlier, the Wayne S. Pierce Show podcast. Yes, I do podcasts now and then, yes. You can come join me tomorrow on the Wayne S. Pierce Show. I may do it at 12 noon. I'm not sure. So look at the Wayne S. Pierce Show Facebook page. And if you see the show up at noon, then, hey, click on it and come and join me. There you go. Also, I want to give a shout-out to a couple of people. Spencer Hughes has a show here on Spreaker.com. Yes, the Spencer Hughes Show right here on Spreaker.com. And you can get more information about his show at spencerhughes.net. And check out all the podcasts he's done and check out his live show when he has one. Also, give a big shout out to the one and only, the man with the face for radio, Mr. BK, Brian Keller. Just BK. You can check out his show at radiokahuna.com and check things out there as well. It is it's that time of day, folks. Glenn from Sacramento is saying he's on his way home from work, so thank you, and you'll be listening to me on the app. Yes, there is apps. Yes, there are. You go to Spreaker.com, go down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see a bunch of apps for the iPhone, the iPad, the Android. I mean, you name it, it's all right there, and they're pretty cool. So check it out. Yeah, there you go. You know. Yes, it's one of those days, folks. It's Tuesday. It's the 20th of August. It's 2013. You know, I love today. What about you? Want to know what's happening all around us? You do? Great! Come check out the Diana and Wayne's Grab Bag Potpourri Talk Show, Friday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Spreaker.com. Forever Me by Thomas Amo. Hannah Richards isn't your typical 16-year-old at Wichita Falls High. Fashion, trends, cosmetic, and style are unimportant to her. An avid reader, guitar player, and classic movie and television buff, Hannah marches to the beat of her own drum. Visible only to her father, the town sheriff, and her two best friends, Lauren and Haley, Hannah lives a simple, unpampered life as an Eastie. After coming to the aid of Taylor Monroe, a popular member of the Stilettos at school, and a series of misunderstandings with her friends, Hannah is forced to reinvent herself. She quickly gets caught up in a life much different than the one she knows, where status, glamour, makeup, and appearance and acceptance become her masters. And what of the dark secret that haunts the streets of Wichita Falls? Can Hannah survive the lies, deceit, jealousy, and rage that are now waiting for her around every corner? Will she succumb to the pressures of popularity? Or will she be crushed under the heels of the Stilettos? High school is hard enough just being yourself, let alone trying to be someone you're not. Forever Me by Thomas Amo. Available on the Kindle at Amazon.com.
Listen to DJ Russ on Rap More Than Words, with songs like the Black Eyed Peas' Don't Stop the Party.
This is that original. This has no identical. You can't hack my digital. Future aboriginal.
And Flo Rida, Let It Roll.
Good time, go home. Come on, baby, let the good time go home. Come on, baby, let the good time go home. Come on, baby.
And many more of your rap hits right here on Spreaker.com.
Late Night in the Midlands is an alternative media that covers the truth, theory, and fact that the lamestream media won't talk about. We cover everything from the known and the unknown, the normal and the paranormal, the government lies and the government ties, and even their thrive. We tell what's coming, what's going, whether it be politics or archaeologists. We have an amazing fan base, and our shows are all archived to be heard millions of times more. So tell your friends, your family, and anybody you care about LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Become a member and be informed.
Come listen to Journey into Light with your host Michael Long. The show is about looking into the afterlife. Where do our souls go from here? What are the true messages from above? Everybody is family, so make a Journey into Light with Michael Long your home. With the best guests on the show, they share the love with all who call in and those who are in the chat room. That's Journey into Light with Michael Long, Sunday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, on blogtalkradio.com/Journey into the Light. Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is looking for you. Are you a voice actor looking to hone your abilities? Are you a writer looking for actors? Then Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is for you. If you are a voice actor or a writer of sci-fi themed radio plays, send your information to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. For more information, go to eastlandradiofilms.wix.com/eastlandfilms for more information. If you are a voice actor, send your audition clips to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. Howdy, howdy, folks. This is the Views Expressed right here for the 20th of August, 2013. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce. Yes. How you doing? Email me at freeamericaradio@usa.com. freeamericaradio@usa.com. Go to the website, freeamericaradio.weebly.com. And also join me here for the Wayne S. Pierce Show, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Yes. So how you doing today? It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Go to Free America Radio on Facebook. Scroll on down. I'm at this article from theblaze.com. Christians who were arrested for reading the Bible in front of the California DMV found not guilty. Billy Hallowell over there at the Blaze wrote this. 2 Christians who were arrested and charged with reading the Bible outside of a DMV location in Hemet, California, have been found not guilty. As Blaze previously reported, Mark Mackey, 60, and a member of the Reconciled Christian Fellowship, and Pastor Brett Coronado, 44, were facing misdemeanor charges after reading the gospel outside of a public building back in 2011. It's taken this long to find that they were not guilty. It's called First Amendment. The men have now been cleared of these charges, according to the Advocates for Faith and Freedom, a nonprofit law firm that represented him. On Tuesday, a judge ruled in favor of Mackey and Coronado, as prosecutors failed to prove that the men needed a permit before reading the Bible to a line of people waiting outside a DMV. They were charged under a trespassing law. After Mackey began preaching on February 1st, 2011, it only took about 15 minutes before a California Highway Patrolman grabbed the Bible and arrested him. His crime? Preaching to a, quote, captive audience, unquote. Video of the original arrest can be viewed. There's a video there at theblaze.com. Considering that there was no proof that the men intended to hold a demonstration or gathering, a requirement in order to hold them accountable for not obtaining a permit before preaching, the case is now closed. Quote, the prosecution failed to meet its burden of proof that our clients committed a crime when they read the Bible aloud in front of a line of people, unquote, said attorney Robert Tyler, who represented the men. Attorneys for Mackey and Coronado noted that the men were simply displaying their First Amendment right to free speech, considering that their Bible reading was done on public property. Advocates of Faith and Freedom has argued that no charges should have been filed in the first place. The case is far from over, though. The law firm had already filed a federal lawsuit against the California Highway Patrol before the criminal case unfolded. Although it was stayed until the end of the criminal case, that complaint will now move forward. Now, I want to emphasize this disclaimer. I am for freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom to assemble peaceably. But you have thugs out there calling themselves law enforcement, which absolutely positively do not do anything that is lawful. I'm just saying. From former CNN correspondent Amber Lyon, TheGuardian.com reports David Miranda, Schedule 7, and the danger that all reporters now face. Oh, let's go read that, shall we? TheGuardian.com, David Miranda, Schedule 7, and the dangers of that all reporters now face as the events in a Heathrow transit lounge in the Guardian offices have shown that the threat to journalism is real and growing. This is written by Alan Roosbrigger. I don't know, sorry, Alan, I'm butchering your last name. Thank you. In a private viewing cinema in Soho last week, I caught myself letting fly with a 4-letter expletive at Bill Keller, the former executive editor of the New York Times. It was a confusing moment. The man who was pretending to be me, thanking Keller for, quote-unquote, not giving a crap. There's another word there beginning with S. I'll keep it, family. Used to be Malcolm Tucker, a foul-mouthed Scottish spin doctor who will soon be 1,000-year-old Time Lord. And Keller will correct me, but I don't remember ever swearing at him. I do remember saying something to the effect that we have the thumb drive, you have the First Amendment. The fictional moment occurs at the beginning of the DreamWorks film about WikiLeaks, The Fifth Estate, due for release next month. Peter Capaldi is, I can report, a very plausible Guardian editor. This real-life exchange with Keller happened just after we took possession of the first tranche or whatever WikiLeaks document in 2010. The writer says, I strongly suspected that our ability to research and publish anything to do with this trove of secret material would be severely constrained in the UK. America, for all of its problems with media laws and whistleblowers, at least has press freedom enshrined in a written constitution. It is also, I hope, unthinkable that any U.S. government would attempt prior restraint against a news organization planning to publish material that informed an important public debate, however troublesome or embarrassing. Excuse me. On Sunday morning, David Miranda, the partner of Guardian columnist Glenn Greenwald, was detained as he was passing through Heathrow Airport on his way back to Rio de Janeiro, where the couple live. Greenwald is the reporter who has broken most of the stories about state surveillance based on the leaks from the former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. Greenwald's work has undoubtedly been troublesome and embarrassing for Western governments, but as the debate in America and Europe has shown, there is considerable public interest in what his stories have revealed about the right balance between security, civil liberties, freedom of speech, and privacy. He has raised acutely disturbing questions about the oversight of intelligence, about the use of closed courts, about the cozy and secret relationship between government and vast corporations, and about the extent to which millions of citizens now routinely have their communications intercepted, collected, analyzed, and stored. In this work, he is regularly helped by David Miranda. Miranda is not a journalist, but he still plays a valuable role in helping his partner do his journalistic work. Greenwald has his plate full reading and analyzing the Snowden material, writing and handling media and social media requests from around the world. He can certainly use this backup. Excuse me. That work is immensely complicated by the certainty that it would be highly unadvisable for Greenwald or any other journalist to regard any electronic means of communication as safe. The Guardian's work on the Snowden story has involved many individuals taking a huge number of flights in order to have face-to-face meetings. Not good for the environment, but increasingly the only way to operate. Soon we will be back to pen and paper. Miranda was held for 9 hours under Schedule 7 of the UK's terror laws, which give enormous discretion to stop, search, and question people who have no connection with, quote-unquote, terror, as ordinarily understood. The suspects have no right to legal representation and may have their property confiscated for up to 7 days. Under this measure, uniquely crafted for ports and airport transit areas, there are none of the checks and balances that apply once someone is in Britain proper. There is no need to arrest or charge anyone, and there is no protection for journalists or their material. A transit lounge in Heathrow is a dangerous place to be. Miranda's professional status, much hand-wringing about whether or not he's a proper journalist, is largely irrelevant in these circumstances. Increasingly, the question about who deserves protection should be less, is this a journalist, than is the publication of this material in the public interest, unquote. The detention of Miranda has rightly caused international dismay because it feeds into the perception that the U.S. and U.K. governments, while claiming to welcome the debate around state surveillance started by Snowden, are also intent on stemming the tide of leaks and on pursuing the whistleblower with a vengeance. That perception is right. Here follows a little background on the considerable obstacles being placed in the way of informing the public about what the intelligence agencies, governments, and corporations are up to. It's a pretty long article, folks. So go check that out. Because the fact of the matter is no matter what you report on, I mean, if you're a citizen journalist and you're out there and about and you get picked up, I mean, even Dianne Feinstein is saying, you're not a journalist unless you have background and papers and work for a company and blah, blah, blah. No, you know what journalists were? Remember, you go back to Kubla Khan, you go back to Marco Polo, you go back to the biblical times. You had people writing down what was going on, journaling what was going on in their areas. That's a journalist. What they do is journal everything, write, everything down. So Senator Dianne Feinstein is full of a crock of what. She needs to retire. Her husband makes a hell of a lot of money. She can stay home with the dogs. Anyway. So journalists are being stopped. They're being questioned. They're being detained. Why? Well, because the federal government, no matter if it's the British government or the U.S. government, doesn't want anyone to know what's going on. They don't want you to know. And the fact of the matter is that you and I want to know. So guess what we got to do? Don't depend on the journalists. Depend on you. Grab your pen and paper, go out and journal everything, write everything down. Hey, I saw a military aircraft flying over our, area today. Hop in your car if you can and go and find out where they're landing. I mean, we did that. Uh-huh. Why are there cargo planes flying into Reno, Nevada? What is the cargo? You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on. What do we do? What can we do? Well, we can do a lot. We can. We can do a tremendous amount to get people aware of what's going on. Even a few lines, a few words on a giant sign somewhere, standing out on the corner of, somewhere, telling people what's going on. That's good enough. Right here in Reno, Nevada, I don't know. I always put challenges out to people, and you don't meet them. I'm beginning to believe you don't really care. I don't care where you're at. You're in New Zealand, you're in Australia, you're in the heart of London, in England, you're in New York City, you're in Miami, Florida, you're in San Diego. I want to know what's going on in your area in this regard. Here in Reno, Nevada, behind enemy lines in FEMA Region 9, we got places called free speech areas. It's just that little tiny area where you have free speech. In the rest of the town, you don't have free speech. That's communism right there, folks. That's what Mao did to his people. And that's what Hitler did to his people. What? You ever know you don't. Those two would just kill you right then and there. They wouldn't care. At least we have less barbaric means of getting people off the streets that we don't like. But the militarized law enforcement will beat the crap out of you if you have, if you're outside their little sphere that they say you can be in, this little free speech area. So I challenge you to take pictures and send that to me. I do. I challenge each and every single one of you to do that. Send them to freeamericaradio@usa.com. freeamericaradio@usa.com. It can be videos as well. freeamericaradio@usa.com. Go to Free America Radio on Facebook if you're not already there. San Diego Craigslist ad seeks crisis actors. What? San Diego Craigslist ad searches for quote-unquote surveillance role players. Company specializes in response to quote-unquote national security challenges, seeks new employees. Julie Wilson over at Infowars.com wrote this. A recent post on a San Diego Craigslist website advertises the need for motivated surveillance role players, SRPs, and scenario-driven practical exercise role players, RPs. The ad claims to be looking to fill these positions to, quote, support military training activities in San Diego, California region, unquote. The ad further states, quote, qualified personnel should demonstrate an established track record of conducting surveillance operations at various discretion levels, supporting surveillance training and military practical exercise training. Individuals with previous military, intelligence, community, and law enforcement experience are highly preferred. That's from the Macy Group, M-A-S-Y Group. And the Macy Group offers services to government agencies and corporate clients, including the Army National Guard, Defense Intelligence Agency, Department of Defense, Department of Justice, Department of Army, Office of the Director of the National Intelligence. They also offer their services to corporations, AECOM, AIG, BAE Systems, Booz Allen Hamilton, David Allen Associates, General Dynamics, and Global Research Solutions. The link is there on Free America Radio on Facebook. San Diego Craigslist ad seeks crisis actors. Go check that out. Interesting. Also from GetHolisticHealth.com, this little piece of information should get your attention. From Sevton Petrov, put up yesterday at GetHolisticHealth.com, U.S. sociologist documents Army experiments on Americans. Louis R. Miranda, thesleuthjournal.com. It is now confirmed that during the Cold War, the United States Army conducted experiments at St. Louis, Missouri's residents, or on St. Louis, Missouri residents, which at the time they claim were for the purpose of protecting the population. Sociologist Lisa Martino Taylor filed multiple Freedom of Information requests and obtained documents from the U.S. Army that confirmed her worst fears. Some 10,000 people in St. Louis had been sprayed day and night with radioactive particles in the 1950s and 60s. Zinc and cadmium radioactive particles were sprayed inside and around a housing complex without the consent of its inhabitants. Most of the people living there, Ms. Taylor says, were under the age of 12 years of age. The experiments were not limited to St. Louis. They were done in Corpus Christi, Texas, and other cities around the country. In Texas, the Army used planes to spray the chemicals over the city under the excuse that a new system to generate a smoke screen was being tested to protect the people from a possible Russian attack. According to Martino Taylor, the Army was actually spraying zinc and cadmium sulfide, among other chemicals, a fact that was kept secret from the victims of the spraying and from city authorities. Quote, they obviously went to great lengths to keep it secret, unquote, says Martino Taylor. As it has happened in many other U.S. government and military experiments, the chemicals were released in and around low-income areas where blacks, Hispanics, and other minorities live. At the time, the Army insisted that the chemicals being sprayed were safe, but documents obtained by Martino Taylor revealed quite the opposite. Quote, "There is a lot of evidence that suggests that people in minority communities were subjected to military tests," she said to Channel 5 I-Team News. Martino Taylor says the chemical spraying done in St. Louis and other cities around the country were part of a larger radiological weapons development program, which was also concealed by the U.S. Army. According to the documents uncovered by Martino Taylor, a company known as U.S. Radium was involved in the execution of the experiments. U.S. Radium was a company founded in 1914 in Newark, New Jersey. Its founder, Dr. Sabin Arnold von Schacke, or Sijaki or whatever, and Dr. George S. Willis was originally called the Radium Luminous Material Corporation. But it was later renamed United States Radium. Was it moved its operation to Orange, New Jersey. There the company became famous for producing radioluminescent paint. Freedom of Information Act documents show that the Army never performed long-term studies to determine whether the exposure to radioactive zinc and cadmium sulfide could have caused harm to the thousands of people who were experimented on in the 1950s. Later in the 1970s, the government conveniently decided to implode the very same housing complex in St. Louis where the radioactive experiments had been held 20 years earlier. Louis R. Miranda is the founder and editor of Real Agenda. His 16 years of experience in journalism include television, radio, print, internet news. Louis obtained his journalism degree from Universidad Latina de Costa Rica, where he graduated in mass media communications in 1998. He also holds a bachelor's degree in broadcasting from Montclair State University in New Jersey. Among his most distinguished interviews are Costa Rican President Jose Maria, I can't pronounce that last name, and James Henson from the NASA Space Goddard Institute. Now, we go on to something else. After the bottom of the hour break, I will talk more in depth about this, or about these two in the next segment. Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security is to assume control of surveillance blimps used to monitor the U.S.-Mexico border, a disconcerting development given that the federal agency considers all areas 100 miles inland of the border to be Constitution-free zones within which the Fourth Amendment does not apply. We'll be getting into that as well. Also from Second Amendment on Facebook. Actually, from BearingArms.com, Massachusetts State Senator pushes for GPS locators in guns. People, I don't know. When I don't know something, I will let you know I don't know. But right now, I don't know why you people can't stand up and just say enough's enough. I don't care where you're at. You're in Britain. You're in Japan, you're in New Zealand, you're in Australia, you're in San Francisco, California. Why aren't you people standing up against any of this kind of crap happening in your areas? I don't want to go to jail or inconvenience people. Oh. So you're just going to let them kill us. Interesting. I don't know, folks. I really, really don't know. Honestly. You know. I'm going to forego this break and just get right into the article because there's two segments that I want to get into here. So, go to Free America Radio on Facebook. Scroll on down. You'll see a picture of a blimp. And the link right above it. Federal agency ignores Fourth Amendment within 100-mile, quote-unquote, Constitution-free zone. Paul Joseph Watson from InfoWars wrote this. Thank you, Paul. The Department of Homeland Security is to assume control of surveillance blimps used to monitor the U.S.-Mexico border, a disconcerting development given the federal agency considers all areas 100 miles inland of the border to be Constitution-free zones within which the Fourth Amendment does not apply. DHS will now oversee the giant tethered blimps used ostensibly to look out for drug smugglers, which are located in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Quote, spokesman Bill Brooks of the Customs and Border Protection told the Yuma Sun that the department accepted the aerostat system from the Air Force earlier this summer and will manage and maintain it for the foreseeable future, unquote, reports the Arizona Daily Star. While on the surface, it appears that the blimps will merely be used for border security. The fact is that the DHS now considers any area within a 100-mile radius of the entire U.S. border to be what the ACLU has described as a Constitution-free zone. Quote, according to legal precedents, the Fourth Amendment, the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, does not apply along the border, unquote. Reports Wired. Quote, by the way, the government contends the Fourth Amendment free zone stretches 100 miles inland from the nation's actual border, unquote. As part of this usurpation of power, the DHS has announced that it has a right to examine electronic devices without a warrant in the name of national security. Given the DHS's complete disdain of the Fourth Amendment within this imaginary Constitution-free zone they have created, trusting the agency to operate sophisticated spy blimps within that same geographical area is a privacy disaster waiting to happen. Police departments across America are already attempting to secure permission from the FAA to deploy surveillance blimps to spy on suspicious activity. And last year, the U.S. Army tested a football field-sized blimp over the city of New Jersey. Over the city of New Jersey? How about the state of New Jersey? In a related story, the Pentagon also recently announced that it would permanently deploy 2 giant surveillance blimps over Washington, D.C. and Baltimore as a replacement for ground-based radar systems used to detect quote-unquote cruise missiles, high-speed attack boats, armed drones, planes, tanks, and trucks, unquote. Despite assurances that the aerostats would not be used to spy on the public, some have expressed concerns that the sheer size of the 238-foot drones would make it fairly easy to attach all kind surveillance devices on the blimps. See the map of the Constitution Free Zone below. There's a map. So, what's your feelings about this? Huh? I mean, seriously. You've got... This government's out of control. Your mayors, your governors, this president, this administration is all completely out of control, period. From BearingArms.com, Massachusetts State Senator pushes for GPS locators in guns. Massachusetts Senator Anthony W. Petrocelli has proposed S-1224 to establish a joint committee between the Department of Homeland Security and other factors to study the feasibility of putting GPS locators in firearms. A government that wants all firearms tracked is going to be viewed with immediate suspicion by the citizenship. And this is a good reason, and with good reason. There is no legitimate reason to track all firearms belonging to law-abiding citizens in a free state. The most obvious reason for GPS tracking of firearms is their confiscation. What justifies such a story, Senator Petrocelli? We're sure your freedom-loving constituents would like to know. Well, that's true. We need to start asking serious questions of our political leaders in our states. Why are you supporting surveillance? Drone strikes. Why are you supporting this president and all his unconstitutional executive orders? We have to ask these questions. You know? Take for instance, you're in school. Now, take you back a few years when you were in school, elementary schools specifically. And something happened, and you told the teacher exactly what happened, and from your point of view, that's exactly what happened, right? Well, the other person's going to lie and say, no, it didn't happen that way. So the teacher gets that point of view. This goes into the drone surveillance. Well, the teacher asks for any witnesses. No one comes forward. Here's how this relates to drones, the drones and the blimps really hanging over our cities. We're going to be hard-pressed if something happens to prove that it did happen or did not happen. Because right now it's only word of mouth. Right now it's just, this witness, that witness said this, said that, didn't know much, yada, yada, yada. But if you commit a crime and do something wrong, which I hope you don't do, it's going to be hard-pressed for you to say you didn't do it. Because you're going to have a blimp over your city. It's amazing, folks. It's quite amazing. I never have, I've read history, I've looked in history, and I've seen what happens, and I see what goes on. But I have never, ever seen such an administration in America get so pushy with creating laws that we have to follow. I haven't. I just haven't seen it. Pardon me. Yeah, I go to break.
Late Night in the Midlands is an alternative media that covers the truth, theory, and fact that the lamestream media won't talk about. We cover everything from the known and the unknown, the normal and the paranormal, the government lies and the government ties, and even their thrive. We tell what's coming, what's going, whether it be politics or archaeologists. We have an amazing fan base, and our shows are all archived to be heard millions of times more. So tell your friends, your family, and anybody you care about LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Become a member and be informed.
Come listen to Journey into Light with your host Michael Long. The show is about looking into the afterlife. Where do our souls go from here? What are the true messages from above? Everybody is family, so make a journey into light with Michael Long, your home. With the best guests on the show, they share the love with all who call in and those who are in the chat room. That's Journey into Light with Michael Long, Sunday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, on blogtalkradio.com/Journey into the Light. Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is looking for you. Are you a voice actor looking to hone your abilities? Are you a writer looking for actors? Then Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is for you. If you are a voice actor or a writer of sci-fi themed radio plays, send your information to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. For more information, go to eastlandradiofilms.wix.com/eastlandfilms for more information. If you are a voice actor, send your audition clips to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. folks, welcome back. This is the Views Expressed live right here on Spreaker.com, broadcasting live from behind enemy lines, if I can say that. From behind enemy lines in FEMA Region 9. This is the Views Expressed live. Biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada. It's the 20th of August, 2013. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. If you heard my last segment, I got one that's probably going to put you on the edge of your freaking sanity. From BearingArms.com, Massachusetts State Senator pushes for GPS locators in guns. Massachusetts Senator Anthony W. Petrocelli has proposed S. 1224 to establish a joint committee between Department of Homeland Security and other actors to study the feasibility of putting GPS locators in firearms. A government that wants all firearms tracked is going to be viewed with immediate suspicion by the citizenship, and with good reason. There is no legitimate reason to track all firearms belonging to law-abiding citizens in a free state. The most obvious reason for GPS tracking of firearms is their confiscation. What justifies such a study, Senator Petrocelli? We're sure your freedom-loving constituents would like to know. Now, I want to say this. I'm going to make this perfectly clear. We, the people of America, we, the people of the United States of America, stand to lose a great deal if we don't start standing up for a great deal. Okay? We, the people of the United States of America, have this neat little thing called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States of America. That's the organic law of the land. Except in 1871, bankers and other people got together and decided to create a corporation of the United States of America, which gives the bankers offshore people and all of everything they ever want, and we handed this country over to the bankers. And in 1913, they had developed, and we have been let's just say the minions of the bankers in one way, shape, or form. When President Woodrow Wilson signed the IRS Act and the Federal Reserve Act into law, making it official that we no longer have a United States of America, he totally abolished the federal Constitution and Bill of Rights in the organic form that it is, that our founding fathers ratified December 15th, 1791. So I want to make this perfectly clear. If we're not willing to stand up for something, then we're going to fall. I'd rather stand and fight for this country against the enemy within than be on my knees and be executed by the enemy without. Outside your doors, you got a world that you think is just hunky-dory. Everything's fine. It's all apple pie, hot dogs, grandma, and baseball, and Andy Taylor and Beaver and everything else. You think everything is just fine. Well, over 70 to 80% of the American people know for a fact that this country is falling apart and will collapse at any given moment. And all President Obama has to do is put his name at the bottom of an executive order that says the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States of America is permanently suspended, and he will declare martial law, and we will be under a rule of a dictatorship. It's too bad that most people do not know what a dictatorship is. It's a scary thought. I'm big on education. I'm big on going into school and making the kids read about the actual history of the United States, not the made-up bullcrap that they have in the textbooks today. Think outside the box. Even if you're, as old as I am, and you're in college, and you're looking at history, and you're looking at that, you better wake up to the fact that none of it that you're reading about is true. Well, there has to be a little truth to it, or it wouldn't be in a book. No, they're going to lie about it. Okay? I spent most of my time reading when I was younger, and guess what? My God, the things I found out about this country makes you want to puke. And if you don't do that, you got to question the sanity of the leadership. Even in your own states. Why did the states sign on to a corporation? Go check it out. Corporation of the United States of America. Go check it out. Go check it out. It's not hard to figure out, folks. It's not hard to look at the things going on around you, like military in Pennsylvania and all that area, and military landing on the beaches in San Diego. It's not hard. Foreign military, mind you, in those places. It's not hard to figure out that we're no longer safe. It's not difficult to figure out or to rattle your brain or to wrap your mind around the fact that we are a North American Union, not a United States of America. How many times in high school or in school, or even if you're in college now, how many times have you read something over and over and over in your textbook going, that's not right? If it's not right, folks, begin to question it. If it's not right, then you're in the right place to ask the right questions. But beware. You're going to have people on the other side of the aisle, the Democratic fascist liberals, and even on the other side of that aisle, the Republican far-right, goony people that think everything is just hunky-dory, giving you answers and confusing the hell out of you. Okay? I'm going to make this right now. Make this statement. I am nonpartisan. I don't care about the parties. Never have, never will. What we need in this country is a total abolition of both parties. What we need in this country is people standing up for what is right, standing up for what is true, standing up for what is factual, standing on the principles of the founding fathers that wrote and had written the Declaration of Independence, and those that wrote the Constitution of the United States of America. That's what we need. We do not need parties. Well, we're not all going to agree. Well, that's absolutely true. We're not all going to agree. And here's what happens when we have parties, which are total fallacies and frauds in and of themselves. This is what we have. We have leaders in these parties with egos the size of freaking Texas. Nothing wrong with Texas. I like Texans. And they go about creating laws and implementing laws that are incrementally suppressing us and taking away our rights. That's just the way it is. We don't have politicians. We don't have politicians. I'm not even independent. I don't even put myself in that party. I'm nonpartisan. Neither parties know what the hell they're doing and probably never will. I'm even starting to question Rand Paul, okay? I look at it this way, folks. I look at it this way. You are responsible for you. You are responsible for who you are, what you do. Because you know why? Somebody's going to hold you accountable. And if that's the case, then we must hold our politicians accountable. And if our politicians cannot, if our leaders cannot listen to us and do the things that we want them to do, they're not worth it. They're not worth their political career. How many people in Washington, D.C. have had are professional politicians? How many people in Washington, D.C. are professional politicians? How many people in Washington, D.C. have been there for over 20 years? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 11, whatever it is. I don't care. They're there. They're professional politicians. They've been there for 20, 30 years. Look at Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Been there for quite a while. It's time he retire. Look at Senator Barbara Boxer and Senator Dianne Feinstein. Same thing. Retire. Bye. I believe in a whole revamp of this government and the process by how we elect these people. I believe that senators, including president and vice president, should have a 6-year term and nothing else. You've done your 6 years, you go home. Get somebody else in there. None of this 2-term bull crap. Considering the fact that in some reports, it's been said that President Obama wants to repeal the amendment that states that you can only have 2 terms. And he wants to go for a 3rd term. And you know what that does? We've had presidents go for 3 terms, 4 terms even. That's a long time to be a president. But he didn't get all his stuff, worked out yet. He didn't get everything that he wanted implemented in the United States, which is a total and absolute fascist dictatorial takeover of the United States. His bosses of the New World Order chose him to be the puppet, and he hasn't performed to their standards. But there's no one else who is apparently as charismatic as he is. But I guarantee you, at the end of the day, he's going to know that he's been used and abused. He's going to know it. He's not a stupid man. So anyway, lights are flickering over here, folks, and if you heard something freaking out there in the sound for a second, really light, a little static, yeah, it looks like lightning. So I'm going to get out of here, folks, before this whole thing gets shut down, and not by my choice. So, folks, check me out tomorrow. Free America Radio Network. I'll have my show, the Wayne S. Pierce Show, at noon Pacific. I've decided to make it at noon Pacific. The Wayne S. Pierce Show, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, right here on Free America Radio Network. Come join me tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Views Express Live. Email me, freeamericaradio@usa.com, freeamericaradio@usa.com. Go to the website, freeamericaradio.weebly.com. And remember, we the people have the power, for we are America.